You're watching World News program coming to you live from Algiers with me, Mariam Zian, to the headlines. On the 101st day of the Zionist war of extermination, 18 Palestinians were killed in a massacre targeting starving and displaced people in Deir al-Balah. Hamas stresses that the government of Netanyahu insists on continuing its war crimes. Also, coming up tonight, the Iranian Supreme Leader says Tehran has achieved a victory over the Zionist entity, adding that the US received a tough slap from Iran. Meanwhile, the Iranian Foreign Ministry affirms its full right to use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, while the US Secretary of Defense emphasizes that the US strike obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities. Next, Sahrawi organizations expose the Moroccan occupation's plundering of Sahrawi resources. Calls for an international investigation into Moroccan violations grow, and the Western Sahara issue is on the agenda of talks between President Ghali and his Mozambican counterpart. And Algeria steps up major energy partnerships, reaffirms its leadership in global markets, and earns praise for its commitment to supporting African nations with homegrown expertise. Hello and welcome back to your nightly news again. 64 Palestinians were killed and others injured by Israeli occupation fire targeting various areas across the Gaza Strip since early Thursday morning. According to local Palestinian sources, Israeli warplanes bombed multiple areas throughout the Strip, while ground forces opened fire on Palestinians, leading to the death of 64 people, including 19 in Gaza City and the northern part of the Strip. Nineteen Palestinians were martyred on Thursday in a new massacre committed by Israeli occupation forces in the city of Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. The Palestinian news agency reported that Israeli drones have struck civilians near al-Baraka junction in Deir al-Balah, killing 18 people and injuring others. This attack came alongside ongoing aerial and ground bombardment across several areas of the Strip. The Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas stated that the Zionist occupation government continues to commit war crimes and deepen the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza. In a statement on Telegram, Hamas condemned the attacks on Palestinian civilians waiting for aid, accusing the occupation of fabricating pretexts to enforce its starvation policy. It called on the United Nations and international humanitarian organizations to take a clear stance and expose the systematic starvation campaign carried out by the Zionist entity in the Gaza Strip.
The recent claims by terrorists Netanyahu and Katz, alleging that government bodies or factions control aid distribution in Gaza, are outright lies. These statements are nothing more than pretexts to block humanitarian aid and to continue the policy of starving the Palestinian people. We call on Arab and Islamic nations to fulfill their responsibilities toward the Palestinian people and to urgently intervene to stop the ongoing genocide in the Gaza Strip.
The spokesperson for Al-Qassam Brigades, Abu Ubaida, said that the resistance is presenting unique examples of courage and bravery. He added that the continued aggression and criminal war by the occupation against the Palestinian people will ultimately lead to its soldiers being dragged into what he described as the quagmire of Gaza for the sake of illusory political goals. Algeria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ammar Ben Jama, in a speech during a UN Security Council session dedicated to discussing effective strategies to prevent grave violations against children, called for a stronger and more decisive response to the unprecedented crisis unfolding in the Gaza Strip. He referred to the report by the UN Secretary General's Special Representative for Children in Armed Conflict, explicitly holding the Zionist entity responsible for the grave violations committed over the past year.
We your effort. The entire humanitarian community, especially UNICEF, especially UNRWA, has repeatedly reported on the dire situation in Gaza, highlighting over 50,000 children reportedly dead or injured these last 18 months.
Vajama described the UN representative's report on the situation of children in Gaza as incomplete, stating that it failed to reflect the true number of child victims in the Gaza Strip.
Despite the dire situation in Gaza, the catastrophic situation in Gaza, the office of the SRSG CAG response have been strikingly insufficient, as it issued remarkably few public statements regarding the situation of children in Gaza.
And still in the Palestinian file, on Thursday, the European summit called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages. The statement also condemned the catastrophic humanitarian situation in the Strip, particularly the famine and the daily direct targeting of civilians. The same statement urged the Israeli occupation to fully lift the blockade and allow unhindered humanitarian aid into Gaza. It also condemned the ongoing escalation of settler violence, the expansion of settlements, and Israeli military operations in the West Bank. And Iran's supreme leader declared that his country had achieved victory over the false Zionist entity. Khamenei affirmed that the Zionist entity had been crushed and nearly collapsed under the blows of the Islamic Republic, despite all its noise. He noted that Iranian forces had managed to bypass the entity's defenses, strike multiple targets at the heart of its centers, and expose its military sites to Iranian missiles. He warned that any attack on the Islamic Republic would come at a heavy cost, as he put it. Khamenei also asserted that the United States entered the war because it feared that the Zionist entity was on the verge of total destruction. He said Washington had achieved no success from the war and had received a tough slap from Iran. He added that U.S. President Donald Trump exaggerated the scale of the American strike because he needed a show of strength. Khamenei emphasized that although the U.S. bombed nuclear sites, it achieved little, and warned that the aggression or any aggression against Iran would lead to repeated targeting of American bases. An Iran Guardian Council on Thursday approved the law passed by Parliament to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Council spokesperson Hadi Nazif affirmed that the government is now required to suspend any cooperation until national sovereignty and territorial integrity are secured, especially the protection of Iranian scientists and nuclear facilities, as he described it. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai stated that the joint Israeli-American aggression will not impact Iran's firm position in nuclear negotiations, reaffirming that the country's red lines remain unchanged. He emphasized that Iran separates defending its sovereignty from nuclear talks and will not offer concessions under threat. Baghai also criticized the IAEA for politicization and failing its legal duties, reiterating Iran's right to peaceful nuclear energy. He highlighted the contradiction between calls for diplomacy and ongoing hostile actions, which he said have worsened the situation. And the U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that his country had obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities and provided an appropriate opportunity to stop the war and achieve peace. Hegseth added in a press conference on Thursday that U.S. intelligence information confirmed the success of the U.S. strike on Iran in delaying its nuclear program, noting that media reports attempted to portray the strike as a failure.
But also on our Patriot, President Trump directed the most complex and secretive military operation in history. And it was a resounding success, resulting in a ceasefire agreement and the end of the 12-day war. There's been a lot of discussion about what happened and what didn't happen. Step back for a second. Because of decisive military action, President Trump created the conditions to end the war, decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities.
And U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Dan Kane revealed that the recent strike on Iran's Fordo facility was the culmination of 15 years of intensive American preparation in terms of weaponry and fuel. Speaking at a press conference on Thursday, Kane stated that the bombs dropped on the Fordo facility hit all their targets, denying any pressure to alter the report on the outcome of the U.S. strike on Iran. He added that what took place at the Udeid base marked the largest ever engagement involving the Patriot missile defense system in the history of the U.S. military.
So we all recognize there will be days and weeks ahead. That's why yesterday I said, if you want to know what's going on at Fordo, you better go there and get a big shovel, because no one's under there right now. No one's under there able to assess, and everyone's using reflections of what they see. And that's why the Israelis, the Iranians, the IAEA, the UN, to a man and to a woman who recognize the capability of this weapon system, are acknowledging how destructive it's been. So that's what's changed.
And Sahrawi human rights organizations have denounced the Moroccan occupation's exploitation of Sahrawi resources under the pretext of green economy and sustainable development, firmly rejecting the establishment of clean energy projects built on violations of international law and human rights. During a webinar hosted by the Sahrawi Observatory for the Protection of Natural Resources and the Environment, speakers stressed that the struggle in Western Sahara is fundamentally a fight for sovereignty over resources.
The renewable energy projects being implemented by the Kingdom of Morocco are taking place in occupied land and without the consent of the Sahrawi people, rendering them legally and morally invalid and illegitimate. What is unfolding in Western Sahara's dominant shift, marked by exclusion, resource exploitation, and the entrenchment of occupation.
And the speakers also emphasized that the new report of the Sahrawi Observatory for the Protection of Natural Resources and the Environment constitutes an important reference document that can be used in legal and human rights advocacy for or to defend the rights of the Sahrawi people.
The illegal exploitation of Western Sahara's natural resources is a key factor in sustaining the Moroccan military presence and a tool for internationalizing the occupation by involving external actors. The Moroccan occupation also uses these resources to enforce loyalty by allegiance and accelerate demographic change in Western Sahara.
The collective of the Sahrawi human rights defenders in Western Sahara denounced the continued impunity of those responsible for the torture of Sahrawi civilians. In a statement marking the International Day in support of the elimination of torture, the Sahrawi Organization for Human Rights called for the establishment of an international mechanism to investigate the torture methods used in Moroccan occupation police stations.
This expresses its full solidarity with all victims of torture around the world and with their families, many of whom are still seeking truth and answers about the fate of their abducted or detained loved ones. We call for the establishment of an international mechanism to investigate the methods of torture used in Moroccan occupation police stations and detention centers, where peacefully protesting Sahrawi civilians are held, practices that have led to deaths and permanent injuries.
Algeria is solidifying its position as a regional energy powerhouse, attracting billions in investments from global giants like Chevron and ExxonMobil, while also pushing forward with bold plans for green hydrogen. Hassan Barkan has more in this report.
With the increasing demand for Algerian oil and gas from various countries, Algeria is emerging as one of the key players in the global energy market. The country's efforts to boost its hydrocarbon production to meet this demand are attracting major international energy companies. American giants like Chevron and ExxonMobil have expressed a strong interest in investing in Algeria, especially given the incentives and advantages offered to investors under the new hydrocarbons law.
Today, we see major American companies like Chevron and ExxonMobil present here in Algeria, preparing to invest billions of dollars in the oil and gas sector. This marks Algeria's return as a major player in the global energy arena.
The Algerian government has made the development of the green hydrogen industry one of its top priorities. This goal builds on the country's vast potential in natural gas and solar energy. In addition to its extensive infrastructure, these factors have led major global companies in the sector to rush to boost their investments in Algeria.
Green hydrogen has become a strategic issue and is now at the heart of Algeria's energy strategies. It plays an important role in the energy transition process. Algeria, thanks to its geographic location, its expertise in the energy sector, and its proximity to Europe, has a significant opportunity to become one of the key players in this field.
In light of the current global geopolitical developments that have heavily impacted the global energy market, Algeria is increasingly seen as a strategic and a reliable energy supplier that many are counting on to help ensure the stability of the energy market.
From this perspective, Algeria has always been considered a reliable supplier, regardless of geopolitical or security developments in the region or beyond. Algeria has consistently been seen as a trustworthy source of energy delivery. There is a strong confidence from all major players in Algeria's reliability. After the crisis in Mauritania, the region turned to Algeria, recognizing its capacity to play a key role on the international stage as a dependable energy supplier, especially in compensating for geopolitical disruptions affecting gas transport routes.
Its vast natural potential, large human capital, and partnerships with major global energy companies, supported by the new hydrocarbons law, have made Algeria a key regional hub in the energy sector.
Algeria's Minister of Energy, Mohamed Arqab, affirmed the country's full readiness to share its expertise in exploration, processing, infrastructure, renewable energy, and energy transport with African nations. In a meeting with EU Commissioner for Energy and Infrastructure, Dorothée Matabouché, Arqab said this support would come through real partnerships involving capacity building, joint projects, and regional infrastructure to boost Africa's energy security. Matabouché in turn praised Algeria's continued commitment to African cooperation and its efforts to develop its energy capabilities. And in the same context, Minister of State and Minister of Energy, Mines and Renewable Energy, Mohamed Arqab, accompanied by the African Union Commissioner for Energy and Infrastructure, Dorothée Matabouché, oversaw the inauguration ceremony of the official headquarters of the African Energy Commission in Algiers. On the sidelines of the inauguration, Arqab expressed Algeria's pride in hosting this important continental facility, stressing that this achievement falls within Algeria's historical and principled commitment to joint African action to promote the values of unity, solidarity, and integration among the countries of the continent, to contribute effectively to achieving development goals.
This achievement represents a crucial strategic dimension in the process of strengthening African cooperation in a vital and pivotal sector, the energy. The energy sector that we see today more than ever is a fundamental lever for achieving sustainable development and a pillar for strengthening the economic and social sovereignty of the continent's countries. Algeria's hosting of this important continental facility is a testament to the confidence our country enjoys and its pioneering role at the African level.
And for her part, Lerato Dorothée Mataboche commended Algeria's pioneering role in energy development on the African continent, given its long history and extensive experience, particularly in the fields of hydrocarbons, energy, and renewable energy.
I also wish to convey our sincere appreciation as the African Union, similarly for the government of Algeria's hosting of AFREC. This is testament really to Algeria's leadership and commitment to not only supporting African institutions, but to also ensuring that the agenda for the development of energy on the African continent is carried forward in a sustainable manner. What is critical for us and what makes this inauguration today very, very important is because we regard Algeria as a leader in energy development on the African continent.
Algerian President Mesrab Najib Tebboune congratulated the Algerian people on the occasion of the Islamic New Year. On his official Facebook page, President Tebboune wrote, I quote, "My sincere greetings to all Algerians, men and women, on the occasion of the new Hijri year 1447. May it bring blessings and prosperity to us all. Wishing you a blessed year. Long live free, proud and dignified Algeria." To other matters now, a civilian was killed in Lebanon on Thursday in an Israeli drone strike that targeted an area between the towns of Shakra and Barashit in southern Lebanon. According to the Lebanese Ministry of Health, the Israeli drone strike hit a bulldozer between the two towns, critically injuring a civilian who was transported to intensive care, where he later succumbed to his wounds. And Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara stated that the new Syrian administration is working to halt the ongoing Israeli occupation attacks on safe areas in Qunaytira province in southwestern Syria. In a statement from the presidential office, al-Shara affirmed that efforts are underway to stop the Israeli aggression through indirect negotiations via international mediators. He mentioned his meeting with local dignitaries from Qunaytira and the occupied Golan. The United Nations stressed the need to ensure the voluntary, gradual, and well-planned return of Syrian refugees to their homeland and called on the international community to support efforts to promote stability in Syria to make that possible. UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi reaffirmed the UNHCR's support for the Syrian government's efforts in this regard. He added that the agency works closely with countries hosting large numbers of Syrian refugees and follows a framework of cooperation with these governments to ensure that returns are genuinely voluntary. And Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed on Thursday that Russia is interested in continuing U.S. efforts to facilitate negotiations and achieve peace with Ukraine. Peskov noted that Russian President Vladimir Putin and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump did not discuss relations between Russia and NATO in their recent phone conversation, stressing the importance of completing the prisoner exchange with the Ukrainian side.
Russia is interested in continuing U.S. efforts to facilitate negotiations and achieve peace with Ukraine. Vladimir Putin and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump did not discuss relations between Russia and NATO in their recent phone conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program has come to an end. Thank you for watching and have a great night.